Within the past few decades, our impact on the Earth has started becoming more and more evident. Climate change is one of the biggest threats to life on Earth currently and threatens not only humans but all of Earth's wildlife. From raging wildfires to record-breaking droughts to extreme blizzards and heat waves, one of the biggest issues we face currently is what to do with all of our trash, specifically plastic. Today it is hard to go anywhere without seeing something else that someone has left behind. Trash has infiltrated both the highest peaks on Earth and even the deepest ocean trenches, where researchers found litter such as plastic grocery bags at depths as low as 36,000 feet within the Mariana Trench. Our trash is everywhere, but there is one place in particular where trash tends to end up. You might have heard of it before, but let's go back a little bit to the creation of the Great Pacific Garbage Patch. For those who don't know, the Great Pacific Garbage Patch is a collection of marine debris in the North Pacific Ocean. The patch was discovered very recently in the 1990s, and there are actually two patches within the Pacific Ocean. One in the east between Hawaii and California, and one in the west off the coast of Japan, but together their area spans 1.6 million miles, or about 2 times the size of Texas. Research conducted in 2008 shows that marine litter is now 60 to 80% plastic, with some areas reaching a concentration of up to 90 to 95%. Similarly, these patches are made up of mostly plastics, with large fishing nets and microplastics, smaller than 5 millimeters in size, making up a majority of the litter. Plastic grocery bags, bottles, and caps also make up a significant portion of the trash. These patches have been formed by naturally circulating ocean currents called gyres that pull objects in from the coasts of each continent. The NOAA defines these gyres as the result of global winds that circulate ocean currents clockwise in the northern hemisphere. The Northern Pacific Gyre is responsible for the creation of the patches in the Pacific, but how did all this trash get here in the first place? To answer that, we'll look a little bit at the history of waste mismanagement in the U.S. Plastic was first created in 1907, with the first plastic bag in 1957, and the first plastic water bottles distributed in the 1980s. And although it has revolutionized our daily lives, it has also taken a major toll on the environment. So, who exactly is responsible for all the trash in our oceans? Well, technically all of us, but the two main contributors are the US and East Asian countries, such as China and Japan. A 2015 study published in the Journal of Science suggests that a majority of the waste comes from these East Asian countries, but this is mostly due to underdeveloped garbage and recycling programs. The US, however, is still the highest producer of plastic trash per capita of any country in the world. Figures from a USA Today article cite Americans as creating about 270 pounds per person per year. But according to the EPA, in 2018, the US generated about 35.7 million tons of plastic, with landfills receiving about 27 million tons of plastic in the same year. Not all of our plastic ends up in landfills or recycling plants, unfortunately. According to the same USA Today article, as many as 12 million tons of plastic garbage are swept into the ocean worldwide. So, now that we have a sense of the history behind this monster in our ocean, as well as those responsible for it, let's look at the path waste takes once it has entered the Pacific. As waste is created, it is either trashed and shipped to landfills or placed in recycling bins and sent to recycling centers. Mainland waste is then washed into culverts, storm drains, or waterways and makes its way into larger bodies of water. There is also the issue of litter on beaches and in coastal neighborhoods, where it is easier for trash to make its way into nearby oceans. This process is different in undeveloped countries with no central waste collection system. Trash is either burned or dumped in unregulated landfills, sometimes in areas near coastlines. According to National Geographic, about 20% of the plastic entering the ocean comes from ships and offshore platforms, with the remaining 80% coming from land-based sources. Once in the ocean, plastics such as polystyrene or polyethylene take over 400 years to degrade in the water. During this period, sun rays, salt water, and waves break plastics down into small pieces, which then continue to float on the surface, descend to the ocean floor below, or are ingested by marine wildlife who mistake plastic as food. Lost or discarded fishing nets, which account for up to 46% of the mass in the garbage patch, according to research by the Ocean Cleanup Organization, pose a larger threat to marine life who can get entangled and suffer a slow, painful death. In the next section, we will look at the prevalence of plastic use and how COVID has worsened this problem within the past year. Plastics are all around us, and it is difficult to avoid their usage in a country such as America. According to the EPA, plastics are a rapidly growing segment of municipal solid waste. Containers and packaging accounted for the highest proportion of this waste, with over 14.5 million tons being produced and discarded in 2018. This includes bags, sacks, wraps, lids, and other food packaging. Manufacturers also use plastic in durable goods such as appliances, furniture, and in battery casings. Non-durable plastic products include items such as disposable diapers, trash bags, cups, utensils, medical devices, and household items such as shower curtains. Most of these items end up in landfills, with only 8.5%, or 3 million tons, of the overall total ever reaching a recycling plant. Over the years, plastic generation has increased rapidly, from just 390,000 in 1960 to over 35.7 million in 2018. All these statistics reflect the state of plastic usage in pre-COVID years. The COVID pandemic triggered an estimated global monthly use of 65 billion gloves and 129 billion disposable face masks, according to a report by Scientific American, or enough to cover an area the size of Switzerland. Single-use plastics in the form of food takeout containers have also risen in production. From these statistics, 2020 is on pace to see 30% more waste than that which was generated in 2019. COVID has also had the effect of straining already struggling recycling programs in places such as Illinois, Nebraska, and New Orleans. In the next section, we will discuss the devastating impact that all this plastic has had on marine wildlife. How does all this waste affect marine wildlife? Researchers from the University of Miami found that marine pollution affects at least 267 species worldwide. Aside from fish, 86% of the species affected involve species of sea turtles, 44% involve seabirds, and 43% involve marine mammal species. According to the research by the Ocean Cleanup Organization, nearly 17% of the species affected are on the IUNC Red List of threatened species. Additionally, marine debris threatens to disrupt global food chains. As microplastics and other trash collect near the water's surface, the amount of light reaching below the ocean surface will decrease as well. This threatens algae and plankton that survive by creating their own nutrients from sunlight and carbon, and also threatens the communities that feed on these creatures, such as sea turtles and fish. As populations of fish decrease, there will be less food available for apex predators, such as tuna, shark, and whales. Eventually, seafood for human consumption will also become more scarce. Microplastics also cause numerous problems for marine wildlife. The WWF reported that 1 million seabirds and 100,000 marine mammals are affected each year, with microplastics found in the stomachs of nearly half of the most important species for global fisheries. When these animals ingest microplastics, these foreign objects are carried through the animal's digestive system, which can cause blockages and more severe conditions leading to reduced food consumption, sickness, starvation, or death. Sea turtles, in particular, often mistake floating plastic bags as jellyfish and ingest them, which causes damage to their internal organs and sometimes causes death. It's not just surface dwellers that are impacted by our trash either. Researchers Alina Weiserchek and Liam Morrison have found that up to 73% of deepwater fish in the North Atlantic Ocean have ingested microplastics as well. Aside from microplastics, abandoned fishing nets, called ghost nets, have been responsible for the deaths of at least 136,000 seals, sea lions, and large whales each year, according to an analysis by One Green Planet. Entanglement can result in a quick death by drowning if an animal is lucky, but will sometimes result in a slow, painful death via debilitating wounds, infection, or starvation. Additionally, plastics can contain toxic chemicals such as BPA, which can make their way up the food chain and cause brain damage and behavioral disorders in fish, according to research by Karen Matson. These plastics can also absorb pollutants such as PCBs from seawater, which cause damage to the lungs, stomachs, and pancreas of marine animals. 84% of the plastic waste surveyed by the Ocean Cleanup Organization was found to have at least one persistent bioaccumulative toxic chemical. Ocean debris also has the potential to carry invasive species to new areas, disrupting communities of native wildlife and causing further problems. Now that we've discussed the effects on marine wildlife, we will look at the impacts marine debris has on humans. Humans have become victims of their own actions in the case of ocean waste. Microplastics can make their way up the food chain and onto our plates, affecting us in numerous ways. The toxic chemicals within these plastics and from other pollutants, such as BPA, PCBs, lead, cadmium, and DEHP, which is a known carcinogen, interfere with hormonal function, cause reproductive issues, cancer, birth defects, immune system problems, childhood development issues, nervous system damage, kidney damage, and brain damage. Mercury exposure in humans can also cause ailments such as Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, and heart disease. This is especially concerning considering that nearly 1.5 billion people worldwide get at least 50% of their average protein intake from fishery-based foods. Contact with pollution on beaches can also cause issues within the digestive tract as well as skin irritation, and if left unattended to, marine debris can result in the destruction of beaches, which could be disastrous for local economies. For example, New Jersey reportedly lost billions in tourism revenue due to increased beach debris, which then lowered the values of homes within the area. Additionally, large patches of marine waste makes traversing the North Pacific more difficult and dangerous for boaters and could threaten the global economy if not taken care of. Although things seem grim, there's still hope for change. In the final section, we will discuss possible solutions to the issues, as well as ways that you can help prevent the issue from getting worse in the future. So what can we do to prevent more garbage from polluting the ocean? Reducing our plastic consumption is one of the most effective solutions to this issue. Instead of single-use plastics, we can opt for reusable food containers, cups, and silverware. Purchasing a reusable cloth mask instead of disposable masks can also help ease the environmental impact of COVID. Additionally, recycling can help reduce the amount of plastic produced globally and could prevent plastics from entering the ocean in the first place. Concerned individuals can also help by making donations to environmental groups conducting ocean cleanups, or by directly participating themselves. If possible, avoid littering and do your part by helping to clean up litter when you come across it. Individual citizens should not be the only ones responsible for change. This also falls on the shoulders of major producers and companies such as Coca-Cola, Nestle, and PepsiCo, who need to take the initiative by either reducing their plastic production or opting for product packaging that is less harmful to the environment. National government should also be contributing to change, and citizens can help support this by keeping national leaders accountable for their actions and decisions. Prevention would be the best strategy, as restoration projects are expensive and timely, but a few engineers have already begun to work on the problem, inventing new systems to help us better deal with our trash. Current solutions exist as trash wheels, which scoop up debris out of the water, as well as floating barriers that trap and collect debris on the water's surface. Altogether, these solutions have the potential to ease the impacts of climate change for all life on Earth.